Morning, Wednesday, May 19th. And I'll tell you something. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the Bronx. And quite often, when I was a young man, a teenager, and we would be hanging around on the corner at the luncheonette, just shooting the breeze, and somebody would say, "Let's go someplace." And do you know, we had no problems. We had no ideas of anything bad happening. And we would go down and put a dime in the slot and get on the subway and maybe go to Times Square and catch a movie and come home at 2 in the morning, and we never worried about any of that stuff. But that's not the case nowadays. For some unexplained reason, there has been a crime wave taking place on the New York City subway system. This is a crime wave where people are being stabbed and they are being robbed. Those two things are not necessarily happening together. And this is not, as far as I can tell, being done by the same group of people. This is just a person who shows up and stabs somebody. Not necessarily with a knife even, just with some sharp instrument. And I can't figure out why. Why has the New York City subway system, which services I don't know how many million people a day maybe, why has this become a nightmarish ride? And the ugly part about this is that the Mayor de Blasio, and the leaders of the MTA, the Metropolitan Transit Association, or whatever they call themselves, can't get together and decide how to police the subway system. I can understand that this is a difficult decision to make. And I can understand, if I think about it, why this is happening. You've got people who have suffered through the pandemic. You've got people who don't know where their next dime is coming from. And the subway looks like a place where it would be easy pickings. Because if you get on the subway at a particular time, it might not be too crowded. And your victim is probably just sitting there, waiting, So it seems like if I had evil intentions, I could get on the subway and do some real damage. So on Sunday morning, there were at least 4 violent attacks that took place on the subway system. Between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., a 41-year-old man was attacked and robbed of his cell phone by 3 men. Now that is a little bit unusual. Usually it's just a single attack of it. And then later, at 8:30, a 40-year-old man was robbed at gunpoint by 3 men on the F train, and they took his cell phone and money, and he wasn't hurt. 15 minutes later, this is about 8:45 in the morning, 2 New York City cops were injured when they tried to remove a fare beater at the 110th Street and Central Park subway station. Police say the sergeant was head-butted and the other officers suffered a shoulder injury. And both are okay. They were treated at the hospital. And the police have the man in custody. So at least he was only a fare beater. He didn't try to stab anybody or hold anybody up with a gun. And then a crazy event happened. A 56-year-old woman was punched by a 70-year-old woman. So there's madness running loose in the New York City subway system. And the mayor and the MTA can't decide what to do about it. And that's the big problem. And I know it's not easy to figure these things out. And it costs money. And I don't even know what it costs to ride the subway these days. Probably $3 or $4 to get a token and get on the subway. If you even use a token, I think you can use your phone to get on the subway. I haven't been in a subway in years. But it's scary. It's scary. What used to be a safe place, and you got on the train and you went to work. And occasionally there was a pervert there who was trying to feel somebody up or something. But that was the worst thing that happened. So you just walked away from them. When the subways were jammed together and people was on top of one another, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. And maybe there was a pickpocket or two running around. But this crime wave is crazy. Stabbings, robbing, guns. And people have to go to work. They can't avoid the subway. Well, maybe you could take a bus, but that might take you twice as long to get where you're going. How much trouble would it be to have a couple more cops on the trains? I don't know the answer to that question. I just know that the subway system has gone to hell in a handbag. And then on Friday morning, there was a slashing spree. 4 people were cut by 4 other people, and 3 of the people were arrested, but 1 got away. So we got a loose slasher running around. And those people, that wasn't a robbery or anything. So what is the point? Why are people trying to hurt other people without any reason? It's just recently that the subway went back to 24-hour service. Because of the pandemic, they were closed from like 2 to 6 in the morning. So now they're running on a 24-hour schedule, and now they got all these crimes going on. And the MTA is begging the New York City Police Department for some help. And the police department doesn't seem to know what the hell to do. And if you can't have a safe subway system, why should people even attempt to go to work? And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem. You got people out of work with nothing to do, and they decide to rob people. But something has to be done, and it has to be done quickly, and it has to be done intelligently. And of course, it's going to cost money, so, that's always a big problem. But I think for the amount of money that people are paying to ride the subway, they ought to be able to ride in safety. So that's the terrible news. But here's some good news. They're going to run the New York City Marathon again this year. Last year, they didn't run it because of the pandemic. But now it's scheduled to be rerun again. There will be 33,000 people running. That's down from 50,000, but it'll still be a big crowd. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to run in 3 New York City marathons, and I had a great time at every run. And the people lined 2nd Avenue to watch us come off the bridge. They were 5 or 6 deep in the streets. And then you finish in Central Park with a big crowd. We got on the bus back because we used to rent a bus to bring a whole crowd from Long Island down to the race. We get back on the bus, and sometimes there'd be hero sandwiches on the bus for us to eat. It was a great day. It was always a great day to run the New York City Marathon. Oh, that's the good news. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.